This week on Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke, we welcome guest Steve Knobles of Santa Cruz, California. Steve has a lifelong passion for the music scene, Harley Davidson bikes, and flea market negotiations. In 2012, Steve suffered a stroke and has been inspiring fellow stroke survivors at Cabrillo College ever since. Steve's story is entitled, "My Statement is in My Works." Thank you for joining us for Part 1, Steve Knobles' story.
Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke is made possible by our guests and tax-deductible donations from friends and listeners like you. Join us in empowering stroke survivors with stories of wisdom, purpose, connection, and hope at www.beyondstillness.org.
Hello and welcome to Beyond Stillness. Stroke offers a powerful, life-changing shift in perspective. Each colorful memory creates a parable for life's greater teachings, a compass for journeys ahead, and inspired wisdom for unique growth. This radio show, Beyond Stillness, offers an hour of pause for storytelling and reflection. Ultimately, Beyond Stillness is a welcoming environment that reveres the moment beyond stroke's paralysis. Still moments unite humanity and divinity. I'm your host, Molly Bucola. This week, we welcome guest Steve Knobles of Santa Cruz, California. He owned and ran a music store and bar in that same town, played in a band most of his life, and rode Harley Davidsons for 40 years. While sitting with his son in October of 2012, Steve suffered a stroke. Today, Steve shares his story entitled, "My Statement is in My Works." As we begin, we'll take a moment of pause to settle into our space right now, to honor who we are in this moment. We take a moment of pause now to give thanks for the people around us who live with integrity, the people around us who live the values they feel in their hearts. And we ask for courage to be those people for others. We ask for courage to show others a way forward, to be the light we are, and to never give up. And we give thanks.
I love the thrill and camaraderie that came with Harley life. I rode bikes for 40 years, but I never got a tattoo. All my friends are tattooed out. I never had the desire to permanently print anything on my skin. I deeply feel that my statement is in my works. It's important to me to live it. But one day, finally, at the age of 68, I decided it was time. I thought that I had reached a point, lived enough life, and believed so deeply in something that I would not change. I knew this was the essence of my being. I was ready for ink. My life in all of its twists and turns has taught me something to be true. I would tattoo, "Never give up," in bold lettering on my forearm. You see, in the morning beginning of October 2012, I was sitting with my son at the picnic table in my huge fenced backyard. I tried to light a cigarette in my right hand when it dropped to the ground. I told him I felt weird, then called my doctor immediately. Dr. Motika urged me to go to the hospital and told me I was having a stroke. My son rushed me in there. The last thing I remember is laying in bed outside of the emergency room at Dominican Hospital. They had no available rooms. My next memory was one of warmth and peace, deep and total peace all over my body. At that moment, I was surrounded by light, a bright light. It was everywhere. I remember the moment vividly. I thought, oh wow, this is so cool. I still can feel that feeling. I carry it with me wherever I go. I used to be scared of dying, not anymore. I later learned that I died 3 times. They brought me back each time. God wasn't giving up on me. When I finally woke up, the doctor visited my tiny, tiny room at Dominican Hospital. He said, I'm so sorry. I wondered why. I then told the nurses that I was so hot, and that they needed to open the window. They didn't. I soon discovered that my demands to open the windows were not understood, not one word of them. I was unable to speak, just grunt. I kept pointing to the window. I was so hot. They didn't even understand me. Then I realized why the doctor said he was sorry. One nurse brought in a fan, and I tried to thank her. All I could do was tap on my bed and try to smile. I was told I had a carotid artery in my neck. The nurse showed me a picture of my neck. It looked like I swallowed 2 tennis balls. I couldn't believe it. I thought this was incredible. It was quite an awakening, but I couldn't say anything about it. At some point, people started showing up in my hospital room. My mom was one of them, my own mother. A parent shouldn't have to see their child that way. I couldn't talk, but I was able to make sounds. At one point, I said, wow, which is mom spelled upside down. Just another sign that my brain was mixed up. One day, I had a memorable visit, the convergence of my girlfriend and my ex-wife in a tiny room that seemed to shrink as the moments drew on. My ex-wife girlfriend showed up at the same time. I could not speak. My ex decided to broach a hot topic. She said to me, you know, when it's time to leave here, you can't go back to your house. My ex took charge of the room. She held one hand. My girlfriend, who was 20 years younger than me, held my other. She asked, who do you want to take care of you? I just stared at them both and squeezed my ex's hand, implying her. My girlfriend made a big scene and left after the nurse threatened her with security. I still cringe at this memory. After about a month, I was in the hospital. I was transferred to Dominican rehab. Still couldn't talk. It was embarrassing. People had to help me with everything. I had to learn how to transfer my body from bed to the wheelchair. I still couldn't talk. I went through a lot of speech therapy. I remember the day they took me off the liquid diet. When the doctor expressed that I should have been taken off the liquid diet 2 weeks earlier, I was excited, but the celebration was fleeting. While in therapy, I reached what seemed like rock bottom. I wanted the feeling of warmth and total peace that I tasted that day I died 3 times. I wanted to give up. I didn't want to live unless I was able to walk on my own. I didn't want to be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. I was always active. The thought of me being in the wheelchair was unsettling. Thankfully, that darkest moment was also my lightest. No way they're not going to depend on anyone in any way no way. I was determined to walk again. God didn't give up on me. In October 2012, they brought me back 3 times. I've got to show the world why. Before giving up on life, I knew I had to give this walking thing my best shot. I relied heavily on my therapists, Ashley and Chloe, at the community hospital on Frederick Street. I wanted to prove to my mom I could walk. I was determined. I did everything. I taped tape to the end of my toe so I wouldn't drag it. I worked hard not to drag it. I practiced a lot. Ashley and Chloe gave me so much encouragement to pick my whole foot, toe, heel up. I would grab hold of the railings in the hallway, and after a lot of time, grueling exercise, I was finally able to do it. I had great therapists. Later, Dan and Sarah helped me on my hand. They too were great. They tag teamed me. My mom visited my therapy sessions quite a bit. She always happened to show up for key moments, like the first time I stood up on my own and I took my first step. After 3 or 4 months of physical therapy, I felt I was ready for a challenge. So when it was time to move out of rehab, the decision had been made. I moved in with my wife and her daughter. They weren't very nice. I couldn't speak very well. They made fun of me. I tried to explain this to my son with broken speech. He just responded, "Yes, they are taking good care of you, Dad." I imagine stroke survivors go through this type of frustration. Both the lack of empathy and understanding were demoralizing. I didn't give up. Thankfully, after 6 to 8 months with my ex and her teenage daughter, I moved back into my house with my son. This was relief in some ways, but in other ways, I still felt disheartened. I was still in a wheelchair most of the time. I had reached a point in therapy I could take some steps on my own. A little background for you. I was born and raised in Hayward, California, over the big top flea market. I love flea markets. I love the food, the people, the thrill of the hunt, and the closing of deals. I sold and bought at flea markets since I was 14. I love waking up at 6 a.m. and pounding the pavement. I've met a lot of great people at flea markets, many of whom I'm still in contact with. Flea markets are full of gracious people. They don't play games. You have to be good at negotiating. You ask what they want. They tell you what they want. You say no, explain why, and there's a back and forth. Then you tell them your price, and if there's no agreement, you just walk away. There's usually a point when you walk away slowly, giving them a chance to if they think they're missing out on. They usually say, "Come back." Then you know you got them hooked. Then you start negotiating again, and you have the upper hand. There's an art to the deal. The initial price doesn't scare anyone away. It takes time. If you know it's meant to be yours, you never give up. When you score it, you think, yes, negotiations, man, never give up. I made a life out of this thrill. I was a musician. I'd buy instruments at the flea markets, guitars, basses, strings, amps, and banjos, saxophones. Used to fill my kitchen with my instruments. My wife at the time told me I needed to sell them, so I started a music store in Santa Cruz. I also loved the thrill of being on stage. I played in a band 5 nights a week. We played blues and rock, heavy blues, Stevie Ray Vaughan type stuff. Our band name Rough House was together for over 20 years. It opened up for big bands. There were a few big bands that thought our opening act had to be toned down as the audience shouted for an encore. Opening bands aren't supposed to get encores. We did. People who die aren't supposed to come back to life. I did 3 times. So what does all this mean? Where do I find my thrills now? I no longer ride bikes or play in a band, but I do return to the flea markets. I remember the day I was ready to give up. That day I told myself I didn't want to live. I was going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. That day I negotiated with God and myself. God saved me 3 times in the hospital. I wonder why. I decided I was going to find out. So I slowly backed away from the thought that I didn't want to live. I did want to live and wanted to live and walk. So I asked my son for help. I told my son that I wanted him to take me to the flea market in Santa Cruz. And he did. Each week I used that pavement, my therapy gym. It was better than therapy gym. I was surrounded by people, my food, and the thrill of the hunt. He would pack up my wheelchair. Once we got there, I'd say, let me walk. I stood up, took maybe 4 or 5 steps. Then every week I'd take a few more until I was able to walk the whole thing, keeping the wheelchair in front of me. Finally, one week I did so without the chair. It was so great to share that experience with my son. We celebrated. Then off to Alameda Flea Market. It's much bigger than Santa Cruz Flea Market. It's 5 acres of pavement, friends, food, and the thrill of the hunt. Once I was steady enough on my feet, it was time to go to work on my hand. I've been focusing on my hand 3 days a week for 7 years. I even went down to see a specialist in San Diego. Spent 2 weeks intensive therapy there. We worked for 4 hours, 2 times a day. There's always more we can do to better ourselves. My post-stroke life is very different. I find different type of thrill in recovery. I spend most of my time at the stroke center at Cabrillo College. Thank God for the stroke center. I started there 12 years ago. I initially didn't want to go, but my ex talked me into it. The first day was an eye-opener for me. Everyone was so nice there, I couldn't believe it. Everyone was so patient and understanding. I now see I need to surround myself with patience and understanding. That's what I hope to be for others. My life is much simpler now. I don't ride Harleys, but I do dive deeper than before. In my encore life, I push myself further, connect more deeply, and enjoy the little things. It's amazing what the thrill of life can do when you realize it's an opportunity. 2 years ago, my 47-year-old son died. My fiance passed away 6 months later. My 90-year-old mom says I'm a survivor. I sure am. I'm taking after her. I'm also showing my son and fiance what I can do with my chance at life. There's always more we can do to better ourselves. There's a thrill in that. This time around, I found purpose. Life's good stuff is in my relationship with myself and others. I'm hooked. I've renegotiated with God. There is an art in the deal. The initial price did scare me away. It takes time. I walked away slowly, and this world said, "Come back." I know what this meant, my opportunities, so I never give up. At age 68, I made my way to the ink parlor. I thought that I had reached the point, lived enough life, and believed so deeply something that I would not change. I knew this was the essence of my being. I was ready for ink. My life, in all its twists and turns, has taught me something to be true. I would tattoo "never give up" on my forearm. That's the message I want every living being to learn. This is an opportunity. I sat in the chair and showed the tattoo artist what I wanted, how big I wanted, where I wanted it. I wanted to see "never give up" in bold print across my forearm. Then I sat back, took a deep breath, and walked out. I had no need for a tattoo. My statement is in my works. I live it. I will never give up. So all you stroke survivors out there, take your next step. Show the world your essence of your being. Your statement is in your works. Live it up. Never give up.
In closing, we take a moment of pause. Steve spoke about ways he persists through the tough times. He remembers that moment of light and warmth and peace. He also thinks of life as an opportunity to listen, to understand others, to live with compassion and strength to move forward. Today we ask for strength, compassion, understanding, and wisdom to know that space within us that is light and comfort and peace, and to nurture the space between us that is light and comfort and peace. Today, we give thanks.
Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke is made possible by our guests and tax-deductible donations from friends and listeners like you. Join us in empowering stroke survivors with stories of wisdom, purpose, connection, and hope at www.beyondstillness.org. Another way to support is to like, share, or subscribe to our weekly show. Again, thank you for devoting time and space for this week's episode of Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke.
Thank you for devoting time and space to listen to Part 1, Steve Knobles' story. Stick with us for Part 2, Steve Knobles' interview. Each colorful memory creates a parable for life's greater teachings, a compass for journeys ahead, and inspired wisdom for unique growth. In this episode of Beyond Stillness, Stories After Stroke, we heard from guest Steve Knobles, who suffered a stroke in 2012. Steve shared stories about ways he persevered amidst challenges. Steve stresses that life is an opportunity and to not give up. Steve's story is entitled, "My Statement is in My Works." Thanks for listening, and remember, as part of the stroke community, you are more than supportive. You are inspirational.
If you are part of the stroke community and have a story you'd like to share on the show, please contact us. Email molly@beyondstillness.org.